All right, so let's just take a look here at some of the ridiculous lies that the controlled state propaganda networks, such as CTV News and the RCMP, have to come up with to cover up the RCMP's involvement in facilitating the drug trade. It's blatantly obvious that the RCMP, the police, and large networks within Canada are the ones responsible for enabling the drug trade and the distribution of narcotics with the type of this is how we know this for sure. This is how we know for certain that this man is a criminal and a liar. The type of technology we have in Canada now is some of the most sophisticated technology ever to set up surveillance all throughout the cities to monitor people, to monitor law-abiding citizens within their home, as has been the case for over 5 years with me. And I show evidence of this regularly, that I'm being monitored in the home when I come and go. So Michael Duheme and his organization can monitor me, an honest, law-abiding citizen who has no criminal record, who isn't involved in any way in crime, simply for speaking out about corruption and police corruption and showing video documentation of the harassment that his organization and the police have put me through for 5 years. He can do that. He can use this very sophisticated technology to monitor me in the home. But somehow, he and all these other people that are supposed to keep Canada safe and stop these things can't use this same technology to completely deter all hard drugs from getting into the country. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. There's no one with two functioning brain cells who could believe that this is true, or that any of the words that come out of this liar's mouth are anything but a script. Okay, this is he just recites what he's told to say, and he's a bully and a thug he's a total psychopath who has no empathy. While his organization terrorizes people, uses gang members and criminals and satanic motorcycle gangs to stalk people simply for speaking the truth, he goes on here and just blatantly lies and makes up ridiculous... Well, sorry, he didn't make it up. He's not even smart enough to make something up in a creative way to cover these things up. He just recites a script. So here they have to constantly create new fake boogeymen and make new excuses to cover up the fact that they themselves are running the drug trade, and that there's no possible way that these criminal motorcycle gangs who are involved in the drug trade would be operating so freely if his organization and the police weren't allowing them to do so, okay? And all these others involved in the drug trade, okay? If they wanted to, they could bust all of them and shut it down tomorrow, and they could cut it off from coming into the country. That's irrefutable. Now, they have the most sophisticated technology within the Fiveeyes countries anywhere, okay? Canada, United States, Australia, New Zealand, the UK. So there's no excuses for having this stuff in there. The only way it can get in is if it's being facilitated on the inside. So because they control these media propaganda networks, the Crown does. Of course, the Crown and the Rothschilds controlling all of these media networks, including fake social media like Twitter/X, which is, again, it's just, they give you the illusion of free speech, but no one who isn't controlled and a part of the system, gets anything they post really seen on a large level there. You'll get a few, maybe a few views, that's it. This is mine here. So they use these media networks they have to constantly do this, create new lies, create new invisible boogeymen to say. So they've got this actor, this was from a few months ago, 7 months ago, where they set up this stage skit, and that's all it is. It's a staged theatrical production where they bring this guy who, of course, he's a former Olympian, he's an athlete. You don't get anything like that with regards to athletics, promotion, or you're not going to be talked about unless you're in the club. So they have him, they just set him up as an actor. They start lying and saying he's involved in the drug trade, and suddenly this actor, that's all he is, Ryan Wedding, has gone from an Olympian to some major drug kingpin in the U.S. It's just a stage scripted movie that they're using as a diversion tactic to cover up CSIS, the RCMP, and Canadian Freemason police involvement in freely facilitating the drug trade, working with criminal biker gangs to facilitate the drug trade. These same criminals who they use to stalk and harass people. So let's listen to some of the nonsense that this individual says, and you can just tell that this CTV news person, that the whole exchange has been pre-planned. They just pre-plan these exchanges. They tell them what they're going to say. He doesn't speak of his own volition. It's obvious why they don't want him to speak of his own volition. He's already been briefed. I mean, you know, they let him choose the words that he might say, but essentially they've already told him, we want all these points in there when you go on. Say it however you want to. Just make sure you say this, 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 and this. And he complies like a good obedient slave that he is, because that's what you have in this system. You have people who just follow a script, but he has a lot more power. This guy's a very high-level Freemason, and he wouldn't be in that position. As a matter of fact, let me just show you here who he really represents. So there's him and Dan Rogers there of CSIS. And these are two of the main criminals right now who are working actively to shut down free speech online in Canada. They want to force the digital ID. They want anyone who isn't part of this system to be shut down and no independent voices to be able to have their say. And also, they want to shut down my documentation. So that's another large reason there. Now, it's not just that, right? There are many other reasons too. The Crown wants internet censorship because the things that they're going to do in the coming years are much worse. And they're going to be terrorizing their citizens and harassing them much more. So they have to shut down our ability to document those things. And here you see psychopath and tyrant King Charles comes to make sure that Freemason Michael Duheme, the commissioner of the RCMP, is doing his job by suppressing free speech, terrorizing his own citizens for Orwellian wrongthink, and ensuring that hard drugs flow freely throughout Canada. That's the Crown. That's who controls him, and he just gets told what to do and say. And you can see Duheme here again with just like King Charles, all his arrogance and self-aggrandizement, where he's got to have all these medals out here. A psychopath and a criminal who lies about everything his organization does and terrorizes his own citizens, incapable of empathy. But of course, when he sees one of his masters here, he's got to go up and kiss the hand. Now, never forget what the Crown was involved in a few years back. Shutting down the whole world over the seasonal flu and then naming it Corona, the Crown, okay? And using all of their controlled community-based agents connected with Freemasonry to push that lie. Let's get back to Mr. Duheme here, and we'll listen to what he says here.
How, until today, until these arrests were made, would you describe it as evolving into an even more dangerous, bigger presence? How would you describe it?
I would say it's a web that he had internationally. He was his cocaine was coming from Colombia, so therefore he had contacts in Colombia. He had contacts in Mexico because that's where he's at, and that's where some of his cocaine from Colombia would come to Mexico. And then you'd have the people that are distributing the drugs.
Hold on, let me just turn this up a bit. Sorry about that. It's a little louder there. The people who distributed the drugs. Who are those, Michael?
Canada as well. And then you have
in Canada, so he's talking about the people who distribute the drugs in Canada, like the criminal motorcycle gangs who you used to terrorize and stalk people, covered in satanic and Kabbalistic tattoos, who you used to follow and intimidate people. Would it be those people who they use to traffic it within Canada?
the enforcers. Anybody who got in his way, he would do anything that he can to eliminate the person.
Yeah, and what evidence do we have of this other than you and a bunch of state-funded propaganda networks that lie about everything saying it? And right now, okay, we're just going to pause just for a second here. Actually, I'll just pause. I'll just stop. That's convenient right on cue now. Okay, I'm gonna cut this off for now. Okay, so I'm getting back to this. I had to stop. I'm continuing on. It's the next day, as you can see by the timestamp there. There was some noise going on shortly after I started to do that video, as I expected. We may get some type of noise today. We maybe get some bang, bang, bang thumping from upstairs. They've enlisted all the people who live here, the tenants who live here, as you've seen from my videos probably, if you've watched them, to follow me when I leave, to do same time exit entry assignments, to go out and park and wait in the driveway if I go out at like 4 in the morning. So they're also required to do at times noise harassment and things of that nature too. So if we get any of that, we'll see how, if it does occur, how significant it is, and then I can always cut it and then start again if necessary. But I'm trying to pick up somewhere near where I left off yesterday here, and that was with the RCMP Commissioner Michael Duheme reciting the usual script of lies because he just gets told what to say. And just you can tell how he's kind of stumbling and trying to think when she's talking about, okay, let's get it up to here. We'll see where we're at right here. Now, first of all, we're coming back to this ridiculous nonsense with this Ryan Wedding, who's just an actor. It's another psyop set up between the police, most likely CSIS and our intelligence services, and the RCMP, and they have to continually create these psychological operations to deceive people so that they won't come to understand that the police and the RCMP and CSIS and our intelligence services are fully responsible for facilitating the distribution of hard drugs throughout Canada. They also allow organized crime syndicates to operate, these criminal motorcycle gangs. Why on earth would they be talked about openly in the media, a lot of these motorcycle gangs that they talk about, satanic motorcycle gangs, if they weren't part of that system too, right? I mean, let's look at it this way. The police have the ability to bug the phone of any common citizen today, even people who aren't committing crimes. So are we to believe, this is what Michael Duheme and the RCMP want you to believe, because they think you're so incredibly stupid that you can't see through these preposterous lies that he is funded to put out continually. He expects you to be so stupid to believe that they can't bug the phones of these people in these criminal satanic motorcycle gangs who are involved in drug trafficking, who they also use to stalk and terrorize honest law-abiding citizens. They can't do that somehow. They just get to, I mean, somehow they're just out there operating, and then the media will say so-and-so, there's a big rally with these gangs where they're just being allowed to operate freely. So that comes into the order out of chaos agenda, interconnected with Freemasonry. These gangs are interconnected with the police, just like other drug gangs on the street are too, facilitated by the police. Now, if you understand a lot of this stuff with predictive programming, where the people behind the scenes, of course all Freemasons behind the scenes within Hollywood putting out these movies, the one movie they put out called Training Day with Denzel Washington pretty much gives you the goods on police involvement in drug trafficking, and how the ones who are involved in it, if you join and you become a cop and you're not going to take part in that, or you have a conscience, or you're a decent person, you're not going to last in that profession. Now, that movie clearly shows that, and the Denzel Washington character is a total psychopath. He enables drug gangs to operate. He'll basically do anything for money. And when he finds out that his partner, who's just the first day, has a bit of a conscience and maybe doesn't want to take part in these things, of course, that's where, the plot twists come in and whatnot. But that's simply propaganda where they're laying it out there to show you the truth through films. Now on TV, they're just going to lie to you completely on the news. Let me just point out something out here before we go back to this that was very interesting. A post. Okay, this post here. Evil must hide in plain sight, for the rules of the universe demand that the deceived must consent to their deception. And that's an Aleister Crowley quote. Okay, I reposted that. And that's exactly what they do, right? Why do they do things like predictive programming in movies where they're showing you things that are going to happen? They put out all this stuff with the COVID scam years before in so many movies. They did it with 9/11 before, on album covers in all these movies. Spielberg had the predictive programming in Back to the Future with 9/11. So they put this out there just to let you know it's subconscious programming. And then you watch this garbage here, and they go on and lie to you about everything and tell you that snow is black and the sky is green. Okay, and there's the two. It's always with fraud masonry, the two sides, which they refer to as duality. In reality, it's duplicity, because it's them knowingly and willfully using people to deceive. The people who they're using know that they're deceiving willfully. That's not duality. That's duplicity. And of course, they're going to fragment it into these, always fragmenting into these two opposing sides until they can bring about the synthesis. And the synthesis, of course, is the phoenix rising up out of the ashes for this new world that they want, this new age. The Ion of Horus, as Crowley would put it as well, referring to the Egyptian mythology with Horus and the Eye of Horus. Let's get to it here.
Is there, you think this is like, you've got the network and now it's all about getting him?
It's about getting him. It's about getting him who...
Okay, hold on. Let me turn this up a bit. Got to hear what Michael's got to say on this, because this is important. Reciting a script.
Let's face it.
So they're talking about this actor, this paid actor, the Ryan Wedding character, who they've just set up a bunch of skits with, and now they say he's some big. Suddenly, all of a sudden, out of the blue, he became some huge drug kingpin after being Olympic, whatever he was, gold medalist or whatever. And so.
When you are importing 60 metric tons of
That's
cocaine.
a stupid question. Like, how much is that in comparison to what gets trafficked?
I think Attorney General Bondi mentioned something like it would be the equivalent of 40 cars, the weight of 40 cars or 45 cars. I forget, but I didn't do the math exactly with that. But it's a significant amount.
And Michael's such an articulate guy, isn't he? Such a polished speaker. You'd think that you'd have, an individual who's in such an important position. He's very clearly a high-level Freemason. You can see him meeting with King Charles and kissing the hand of the tyrant King Charles when he was in Canada. He's a very high-level guy, for sure, probably from a bloodline, probably from a family that goes back with the communitarian system, who've had people for generations within this system doing what they're told for the state. Because you don't get into one of these positions in Canada if you're not a high-level Mason as a male or connected with one of these families. So.
But you can imagine that the amount that's coming into Canada was not only coming into one organized crime group.
Oh, so how did it get in, Michael? Do tell us.
Like he most likely had the whole control of cocaine coming into Canada to different organized crime groups.
Really? And was he working with El Chapo, who just dug a hole and climbed out of his cell in Mexico? Are people to believe that too? Why don't you tell us about how the Loch Ness Monster is bringing drugs into Canada, or Santa Claus is bringing it in, Michael? I mean, that would be a more believable story. Now, how on earth did it get in? Please tell us. How did it get in? Is he going to tell us? Is he going to tell us how they have some of the most sophisticated technology anywhere ever with the Fiveeyes countries, and how they couldn't detect it and stop it? I mean, you'd almost think there was someone on the inside allowing it, wouldn't you, Michael?
I guess, drug trafficker in Canada?
Yeah, let's make up just make up some random name and just bring up some new actor that you've got who must be the person. It can't be the drug gangs who you allow to operate, who you also use to stalk people and harass them, can it be, Michael?
He is, I would, based on the intelligence we have right now, he is the biggest.
Based on the intelligence you have right now, and what else are you using your intelligence to do? Monitor me right now inside of the home here. Monitor me while I'm recording this video. That's what your intelligence is doing. Monitoring and tracking law-abiding citizens who have done nothing wrong while you can't figure out how the drugs are getting into the country. Isn't that interesting?
What about the ability to get, because I listened to Attorney General Bondi.
Now, is this, what's her name, Vasi Palekos or whatever her name, I think that's her name, Vasi. Is she going to ask him the most basic and obvious question? How could all of these drugs get into Canada when you have the most sophisticated technology for surveillance anywhere, within the Fiveeyes countries combined? How is it getting in, Michael? That's the first question that would come to mind. Is she going to ask that?
With this too, like the way that he's utilizing trucks, for example, to get the cocaine into Canada. Like, what are...
Yeah, he's just driving over the border with the trucks, and somehow the people who are there aren't able to detect it. They're not stopping them. They're just letting the trucks go in. It's just some random thing where they just missed them, right, Michael? Is that right, Michael? What's he going to say?
It's well known to us that there's some investigations that are ongoing, but the method of using a truck to bring cocaine, meth.
Sounds like he's stammering a little bit. Sounds like he's a little nervous there, Michael. Are we trying to think what we're going to say there?
Into Canada is known.
No, well, actually, it can't be that because he's already been told what to say, but maybe he's just getting a little, nervous because he's so used to lying and having nobody challenge these lies. And she's not going to challenge these lies. I mean, that was indirect, but she's not asking him, how did it get in? How did it get in with the type of technology you have when you're spying on your own citizens who've done nothing wrong? How is that possible unless you're lying and you're enabling it and you're allowing it to get in and you have large networks within the country, namely these drug gangs who you also use to stalk and harass people?
Intelligence and targeting the companies that are actually doing that.
And do we have the resources? I guess it's not just...
good. There. Now she's broaching on the question a little bit. Do we have the resources? Well, we certainly do have access to Palantir. We certainly do have the police tracking my movement everywhere I go, even though I'm a law-abiding citizen. So if they have the ability to do that, why on earth wouldn't they have the ability to stop the drugs from getting in? And if they do get in, completely shut down the people who might be trafficking them immediately. It's illogical and ridiculous.
We've made promises to increase resources at the border, that kind of thing. Could that help?
Yeah, it's a collective effort. If we have information that a certain type of vehicle is coming and CBSA is coming at a point of entry, we will work with CBSA and share the information and make sure that we can stop it. Or sometimes there's different techniques where we want to follow where it goes. So.
Do you think that the arrest today and the sort of clamping down...
It was a fake arrest. It was a staged arrest. The guy's an actor. So she's knowingly lying and taking part in this sideshow. Obviously, you already know that. If you know, this is state propaganda. I'm just showing you this just to show how woefully inept this guy is at giving any explanation for how this stuff is going on and how we can see for certain he's a liar and he's just a corrupt Freemason who's been put into his position because they know he's a psychopath and he'll lie about anything. And he'll take part in terrorizing his own citizens, monitoring me in my home, and illegally tracking law-abiding citizens as well. While he makes sure that those people like that drug trafficking biker gang guy who they're sending to stalk me, he gets to walk around free and stalk people. Right, Michael? And Michael can't figure out how the drugs are getting in. That's convenient, huh? Listen to how scripted and staged this nonsense is.
Because you're destabilizing his network. Now, how strong is his network that we're not aware of? That's another thing. But what was done in October 2024 and what was done today is certainly destabilizing.
Okay, so he says we've destabilized his network. First of all, it's all fake because the Ryan Wedding guy is just a state-funded actor. He's like the people who they use to stage these fake protests. But that notwithstanding, even if that wasn't true, if what he's saying is true and they did that, wouldn't you see a change? Wouldn't you see less people dying from drugs, less drug addicts around, less availability of crack, meth, heroin, and fentanyl all over? Drug dealers operating freely on the streets of Ottawa, like the videos I've shown, enabled by the police in an area where the police are always around. Wouldn't we see a decrease in that? We see none of that. So if that happened, if what he's saying is true, we would see results. We don't see any of that. We see the exact opposite, thus further confirming that he is a liar.
So I have one final question for you on sort of the relationship with the FBI, with Pam Bondi.
Okay, so let's get to it here because we now know the FBI for sure in the United States are responsible for targeting and harassing their own citizens while taking part in staging fake false flag terror attacks just like here. So of course the RCMP work with the FBI because the FBI facilitate the drug trade in the United States as well, along with the CIA, okay? That's obvious.
You mentioned October.
Same thing going on there.
2024, when I think the first announcement was about collaboration. A lot has changed since then, right? On the political side of things, and I understand that you're not political, but I think a lot of Canadians...
Of course he's not political because he knows the whole system's a fraud. He's a Freemason, and he knows that both sides are controlled, and they're just Freemason puppets who lie to each other and make Masonic hand signals and follow the script that our intelligence services give them on behalf of the Crown, just like Michael does. So why would he be political when he knows the whole thing's a farce?
Are interested to know, did anything happening politically ever affect the relationship, or how would you
see? She's got to bring the fake politics into this just to normalize the fraudulent, fake, Freemasonic controlled political system. Your vote means absolutely nothing. They insert who they want, and whoever they insert simply follows instructions. All you need to do is look at the COVID situation to see that to be an irrefutable fact.
Characterize the way in which you work with the FBI.
No, we have a really good relationship with the FBI.
Well, of course, you run drugs just like the FBI do. You cover up crimes just like the FBI do. You terrorize and harass your own citizens and lie and slander them just like the FBI do. You create false flags and fake boogeymen to justify shutting down basic rights and freedoms and doing illegal surveillance on your citizens just like the FBI does. So, of course, it's a good relationship. These are the Fiveeyes countries. They work together by means of terrorizing honest people and enabling crime in the drug trade.
We have a good relationship
Okay, so you've heard enough of this nonsense from this guy. You can just tell. There's nothing, no honesty or integrity there at all. Not a single word comes out of his mouth that isn't a lie. He just lies to cover up all of these things. Let's move along to something else here that is intertwined with the same agenda here. Okay, now look at this. Okay, look at what. Now they've got her here, Michael Duheme going. This is another clip with Michael Duheme on the CBC to talk about this stage-scripted psyop with the actor Ryan Wedding and a staged arrest to deflect attention away from the RCMP and CSIS being involved in running the drug trade. They have to constantly stage all these skits to make you think that there are these invisible boogeymen, so that people won't understand the truth. And of course, our state-controlled media, controlled by our intelligence agencies, who are also run by the Crown and CSIS and our intelligence services, they just get told what to say and do. They recite a script from the Associated Press, and so they run cover on these things as well. It's a large-scale operation to deceive and lie, to cover up the real people who are involved in flooding the country with narcotics. And they use a lot of actors as well, like this guy, Ryan Wedding. He's from one of the families of the communitarian system. So he would be someone like I discussed in that other video, like the people who they use to lie and deceive at these staged protests, where the state controls both sides of the protests, and they use the actors to reach a predetermined outcome, which always is the outcome that the state wants to achieve. They did the same thing with all the staged fake COVID protests and the trucker convoy, which was nothing more than a Masonic sham set up with military people and actors, staged arrest with that fake Tamara Litch arrest and all of that, the same thing. So we see this woman here is wearing purple for Freemasonry. When Michael comes on, she's got to wear her purple.
U.S. authorities alerted the RCMP about the arrest of...
Yeah, and this is the movie production here. The movie production where they bring the antagonist actor off. Okay? This is a Steven Spielberg film here. Okay. Yeah. Just an actor, okay? State-funded actor. He's not. What they do now, after this, they give the guy a new identity. They move him away. They give him a new name. And he just continues on with his life. He's done his part by lying and deceiving. And then he helps to deflect attention away from the real criminals involved in flooding the country with narcotics, CSIS and the RCMP, and the Canadian Freemasonic police, who also take part in these stage skits on a consistent basis.
The RCMP is, like every other government department, managing budget cuts while looking to expand the force.
Well, if they're looking to expand the force, the prerequisite is you have to be a psychopath. You have to have no empathy. And to move up within the force, you're going to have to be a Freemason if you're a male. If you don't join a lodge, you won't move up, that's for sure.
I spoke about all of this with the Commissioner of the RCMP, Mike Duheme.
Let's hear it.
Commissioner Mike Duheme joins me in studio. Nice to see you again, Commissioner.
Thanks for having me, Rosie.
Lots to talk about, but I want to start with sort of the big story. I think we were supposed to talk to you last week, and I looked up and I saw you were not in the country. Ryan Wedding was arrested on multiple charges related to murder and drug trafficking.
It didn't happen. He's not in jail. It was a fake arrest. It was staged, okay? Anyone with 2 functioning brain cells knows that by now.
How things unfold.
And this is how they're going to do this going into the future. So you must understand, this is why people like Freemason Michael Duheme, on behalf of the Crown, want internet censorship in Canada. They only want people with the digital ID to have access to the internet. Obviously, anyone with any sense knows that they're not doing that for the reasons they say they are. If they cared about any of those things they're talking about protecting kids from, they would have done that 30 years ago when that stuff was being out on the internet. For like 30 years, nothing was done. So that's simply a lie to take away freedoms. And he wants to censor the internet, also because I regularly put up documentation showing what his organization is really involved in, not the lies that the CBC promulgate to cover for his organization on behalf of the communitarian state. So he definitely wants internet censorship. He only wants you to be directed towards state propaganda networks like this so you can listen to him lie and you can listen to them push this ridiculous nonsense on a consistent basis to deceive people.
And I'm not sure how much you're going to be able to say. There seems to be some confusion around whether he surrendered.
Well, it looks like Michael's got a script in front of him there too, eh? Not too obvious this time. A few notes, huh?
He was details. What can you tell me about how that actually unfolded?
Yeah, how did the film script unfold, Michael? Do tell.
So I apologize for last minute change last time because I had to be there last minute. But you know what, Rosie, it's an interesting and complex international file.
Staged event.
The RCMP came together with the FBI. Colombians were involved. The Mexicans were involved.
They've always got to talk about the Mexicans, the Colombians. Always got to create these fake boogeymen instead of stating the obvious truth to cover up for his organization's crimes.
The Justice Department, the FBI said many law enforcement, Canadian law enforcement, U.S. law enforcement, and this was really it was a FBI lead, but we had some RCMP members that played a key role in this investigation throughout the investigation, and considering that this was led by the FBI, the briefing I got was very little with how he was apprehended, and out of respect to the FBI, I don't usually ask questions when it begins into these.
No, of course you don't, because you know it's all scripted and staged. So why would you ask any questions? You just do what you're told, right, Michael? Just do what you're told.
Because it's not my file to speak.
Okay, the Wall Street Journal is reporting that essentially the Mexican police alerted the FBI, and the FBI negotiated with him to give him.
Oh, I'm sure that happened. This is all staged. Okay.
That information, I was told to be an Ontario,
Okay, let's see if there's any more here. I don't want to go through all this one. We'll go through.
We arrest the individual and bring him to CBSA, process the person. So, and again, technology, the increase in technology has played a huge role.
Okay.
Oh, did you hear that? Okay, so now that's important. What he said there. The increase in technology has played a huge role. Well, of course, the technology has helped them in their organized stalking and harassment campaigns as well, hasn't it, Michael? Stalking and terrorizing honest citizens for speaking the truth. The technology's done wonders for them there. But he says the technology played a huge role, so he's admitting that they have very sophisticated technology. Yet somehow, I come back to my main point. They can't stop the drugs from getting into Canada, flooding in. Now, if we go back to, let's say, the 1950s, how were they able to stop it from getting in then, Michael? When you didn't have people all over the streets cracked out of their mind and, crack, meth, and heroin available everywhere, and gang members and drug dealers able to freely operate. How did they stop it from... Well, they stopped it because they didn't allow it to get into the country in the 1950s when they had hardly any technology even close to what they have today. Yet now today, he wants you to believe that they can't do that. It's utterly preposterous, and no one with a functioning brain can believe anything this man says. And so because of that, that calls into question everything else his organization are involved in. And I show evidence on a consistent basis of what they're really involved in. And it's disgraceful.
I want to ask you about the federal gun buyback.
Just like a person who would come in and lie consistently, willfully deceiving large numbers of the public to cover up his own crimes. We'll get on to more here. The question that arises with regards to this situation with the RCMP and CSIS being a part of it, it's not just them. They use large networks of citizens as well to take part in these operations. And we already know that they have large networks of citizens who are paid to lie and deceive and cover up the crimes that the police are involved in. Now, the police would only be so bold in doing these things that they're doing, terrorizing honest citizens, enabling the drug trade, etc. They wouldn't be that bold if they didn't know they were fully protected. And that means they have to have certain amounts of the population on board to take part in this with them. And that involves lying and deceiving on behalf of the state. And so these are the people that the state controls, and they're given added benefits for becoming community-based agents, for spying on their neighbors, for basically doing whatever the state tells them. And as odd as this seems, just like in full-blown communist countries, they raise their children and train them in these activities to basically become informants. I can show a lot more evidence of that proves that to be the case here, just looking at various examples. But I want to get back to a couple posts that I saw on X, Twitter today. And, okay, so this organization here, I noticed this post. It says Toronto OPS, Toronto Overdose Prevention Society. This is another false front group created by the communitarian state in conjunction with our intelligence services like CSIS, I believe. Now, the purpose of a lot of these false front groups, it varies, but this one in particular seems to be just the purpose of this group is to normalize the use of hard drugs, right? Because what they do is, so recently, or not too long ago, they shut down some of these safe injection sites. All that is a temporary thing to deceive people, right? So when they realize there's some pushback about all the drug activity that's going on, the state will make concessions. So they'll have one of their puppet politicians say, okay, we need to close. So they will close some of them down. Then what happens is they have all these groups who are also associated, unsurprisingly, closely with paramedics as well, the same ones who take part in staged events on behalf of the state and stalk honest citizens and harass them with sirens. The same ones who took part in pushing the biggest scam ever, worldwide scam, who were lying about that and deceiving in that regard. So they're, connected with this as well. So they claim it's for overdose prevention. Now, this is what they say here. First 5 months of 2026, calls for suspected opioid poisonings increased by 20% in Thunder Bay, 199% in Hamilton from January to May compared to the same period last year. Non-fatal OD calls rose almost 100%. Toronto, Ottawa, a 52% increase. Okay, whether or not that's true, what is the reason for that? And I'm going to say, this is what I said here. Okay, so of course, so the overdoses are increasing when you close safe injection sites. Yeah, but wouldn't the solution to that be to get those people off drugs? Their solution is reopen the safe injection sites and let people continue to kill themselves taking crack and meth and heroin and let the drugs remain, right? Ridiculous, and you can tell these are people who are funded by the communitarian state, but they put on a front of empathy. Their false front is that they're doing this to help people. How are you doing this to help people when those people are accessing the drugs to destroy themselves and the drugs are killing them? If you were working to help those people, you would encourage them to completely stop using the drugs, and you would hold the RCMP accountable for the drugs getting into the country and not doing their jobs, okay? That's what you'd be doing if you were a real activist group that cared about these things going on and cared about people dying from overdoses. That would stop the overdoses. Their solution, open back up the safe injection sites and let people continue to kill themselves on crack and meth, and let crack and meth addicts be all over the streets, and continue to allow dealers to operate freely. That's their solution. Now you can tell they're just funded by the state. They're a false front group, and these methods they use are very clever, because right while they offer you the solution, by having one of their puppet politicians say, okay, we'll make a little concession. We'll close down a few of these safe injection sites. As soon as they do, the same state-funded actors funded by the state then put out this group to say, look what's happening now that you closed the injection site. Deaths are up, ODs are up exponentially and people are dying. Well, then the solution is to work actively with groups to completely get people off drugs. They don't want to do that because they want the drugs to be legal. And behind the scenes they are. And this is where this lying and deceit, all connected with Freemasonry, comes in to the whole thing again. So here's what I said. If Toronto OPS genuinely cared about all of the people dying from overdoses as they claim to, they would be working to encourage people to stop using hard drugs, and they'd be holding the RCMP accountable for negligence by allowing these narcotics to flood into Canada. There's zero excuse that the RCMP have. They're allowing the drugs to get in. It's irrefutable. They have the most sophisticated technology available. Michael Duheme even acknowledged that in what he was saying there. So how are the drugs getting in? It can only be getting in if they're facilitating it and continually using these state propaganda media networks to run cover by setting up these stage skits with these actors like Ryan Wedding to deceive the public into thinking that the RCMP are actually making arrests related to drugs. That was staged. The guy's not going to do a day in prison. He's an actor. They've given him a new identity and moved him out now. Moved him somewhere far away. Okay? That's how they do it. It's deception in connection with our intelligence services and the RCMP. Sophisticated deceit. And but again, these organizations like Toronto Overdose Prevention, if they really cared about people dying from overdoses, the first and most important thing you do is encourage all these people to get off drugs. Create programs where they can completely get off drugs. You don't put up more safe injection sites where they can use crack and meth openly and kill themselves. That shows that you want people to die. That doesn't show any empathy or any care or concern for these people. And that's what they really are. That's what these false front groups really are. But they use people and they exploit emotion. And this is what Freemasonry always does behind the scenes. They exploit empathy. They exploit human decency. They exploit emotion and use that to control people, right? Because they know people can be emotionally manipulated when they hear that people are dying from overdoses, which they are. But the solution is not to open more drug dens where they can do drugs and allow dealers to operate in these drug gangs. The solution is to cut the drugs off completely from coming in, which the RCMP could do. They're just not doing it intentionally, and to get those people help to get them off drugs. These people here, Toronto overdose prevention, they want people to die. They want people to keep taking these lethal. They know the drugs are lethal. They acknowledge that themselves. So you're just saying it's inevitable that people are going to take them? No, I come back to my main point. How come in the 1950s, when they had none of this technology, even close to what they have now, they could keep all these drugs from getting in? I rest my case. It's very obvious what's going on here. And they fund all these false front groups. Don't be fooled by these false front groups they set up, because they use emotional manipulation. They say, we're doing this to help. You're not doing anything to help people. You're a group that's set up by the Canadian communitarian state to use deceit to normalize the use of hard narcotics, which is an agenda that they want to push. It's part of this whole new age system that they want to come in. But they know they can't do that all at once. They have to do it slowly and incrementally, because there are still some elements of the public that have a conscience that don't want these things to happen. That's why they want to get rid of Christianity. And that's why, but they won't attack it head on. They'll only attack it through these cowardly, deceitful, devious methods, all done through Freemasonry behind the scenes. And that's how they operate. Yeah, sure, overdoses are increasing when you close safe injection sites at Toronto OPS. That is part of the problem reaction solution, the Hegelian dialectic method that the state uses to deceive people into normalizing hard drug use. Why can't the RCMP just do their jobs and stop drugs from getting into Canada, while they're busy terrorizing me on a consistent basis and using these same criminal drug trafficking biker gangs that they use to facilitate the drug trade to stalk me? They can do that, but they can't work to deter drugs getting into Canada or to shut down these criminal organizations. The RCMP and CSIS are fraudulent criminal organizations that lie about everything they do. I'm going to continue to make videos exposing them on a consistent basis.